Okay, well, we're going to get going. Once again, welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about some ways to increase sales and ROI with proven event marketing tactics. Hope this will be very useful to you. A couple of housekeeping items before we get going. We will be providing a recording of the webinar today to everyone that attends. If you're not super familiar with GoToWebinar, if you don't like that ugly dialog box on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side of it, you will see a vertical bar with a little orange arrow at the top. If you click on that orange arrow, it will minimize that dialog box so it isn't hogging your screen. We will be taking questions today. If you have a question you'd like to ask, just use the chat feature that's actually down at the bottom of that dialog box. If you ask a question, Sarah's going to be monitoring those throughout the program. We're going to take a couple breaks throughout the course and try to answer them to the best of our ability. Well, we're going to get going here. That's me. I'm Kevin. I'm the bald-headed guy from Flint, Michigan. I own Printcom. I've been here since the dawn of time, since rocks were still soft, the earth was cooling. I love marketing, love direct mail, and hopefully we give you something that is useful today. Helping me out today, Noah, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Noah Burke. I am one of the co-founders at OBO Agency. So I've been in the sales and marketing industry now for over 15 years, really helping everyone from startups to more established businesses and larger enterprises really drive new business through a variety of tactics, including helping them manage their event marketing. So looking forward to being here, Kevin, and thanks for inviting me to participate.
Well, you are welcome. Noah's a sharp fella, has a real sharp marketing mind and broad knowledge of marketing automation, which certainly is a vital part of the event marketing mix. Okay, so here's what we're going to be doing today. First thing, we're going to be talking about the business case for event marketing and enhanced tactics, which includes some pre-event planning. So how do you budget? How do you determine ROI? What kinds of things do you need to do well in advance of the show or event so that you're successful? Then what sort of pre-event marketing tactics should you contemplate? What works? What's been proven to be effective? What do you do at the event? Are there Marcom tactics that are effective there? What are some other things you should do at the show or event? And then finally, what do you do after the event? How do what kind of lead nurturing tactics or post-event tactics do you do to make sure you convert the highest number of people? Should mention, we've got people from a variety of industries here today. We've got folks from the franchise space, folks from the higher ed space, building suppliers, actually some people in the print business, parks and rec, and event management firms. So I will tell you, the session today is going to have kind of a B2B bias. You folks that are more B2C, you're still going to get I think quite a bit of good out of this session today. I will tell you, we're saying B2B, but really it's really focused on folks who have a complex sale on the back end of the event. So higher ed, certainly that's a complex sale. It's a lot of money to go to college. There's a lot of research and decision making that goes in. So the kinds of events, that the higher ed sector may be holding, like open houses, campus visits, high school recruiting visits may, differ from building suppliers who rely on builder shows as a major marketing tactic. The types of events may vary, but the principles are very portable, and I think you'll see that today. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some of the planning that you ought to do before the event, just to develop a business case. We should only be doing events if it makes sense fiscally, right? And fiscally responsibility, it may be longer term in nature, but it still has to make sense. So, take a look at what you think your expenses are going to be. I think when folks really sit down and put these numbers on a spreadsheet or pencil it out, sometimes it's a real eye opener. Exhibiting can be very expensive at trade shows, from a few $1,000 up to, 6 figures. What kind of pre and post show marketing will you have to do? Travel expenses, which are related to, staff. What staff are you going to have go? No. What's your take on staff? Who should you be taking?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So I always break it down into really 2 types of individuals. Now, of course, that can be across the whole organization, but I really look at people who are going to be your greeters. So people who you're going to have out in front of the booth. If you have a booth, obviously, if you have a large exhibit, people will be able to move in and around. But you want people who will be enabling to kind of pull individuals deeper in, or enable to set up a conversation for what I call closers. Closers are the ones who are going to take these people into a deeper conversation. So a lot of times companies will bring like their sales development reps or the business development reps, have them be the greeters, have the account executives, the sales managers, the marketing managers really act as the closers for people who are highly interested. So you really want to think about the mix between the two. Even if you can only have 2 people there, it's generally good to have at least one person who's out there hustling, talking to people, and someone else out there who's really honing in on those deeper conversations that can lead to appointments after the show.
Sure. So that makes sense. Once you've decided how many people you're going to take, you can develop your travel budget. Another thing we think should be taken into account is event discounts. So if you're selling product or service and you're going to offer a show special, what's the cost of the show special? That should get factored in. And then there's all kinds of miscellaneous things. This can be wining and dining, or giveaways, or things of that nature. So add up all your costs and see really, okay, what is this costing us? And then look at, the marketing end of the equation is, which is what's your goal or objective, or what do we think we'll get out of this realistically? Hopefully you're keeping track of this first bullet point. What kind of conversion rate do you have for these types of events? And how long does it take? Some of you are getting commitments on the spot. It makes sense. It's maybe not as complex, or maybe you've got some people that are bottom of the funnel showing up to the event. So you're literally going to sign some deals or sell some product. Others, it's primarily lead generation. So if it is primarily lead generation, what's your typical conversion rate? And then in line with that, what's the average customer value from this type of event? Is it a customer that will spend $5,000 a year or $100,000 a year? Are we going to end up with 2 of them, 5 of them, 10 of them, 20 of them? You're multiplying how many you think you'll end up with ultimately by the customer value to kind of derive a revenue figure that ultimately you'll realize. And so now, you've already computed your expenses. Based on your expenses, how many leads or sales do you need to break even? I kind of skipped past this, but no, I think you had a comment with respect to average, customer value. Did you have a comment you wanted to throw in there?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you're looking at an event, I know sometimes I hear from clients, well, we're just trying to build brand. We're just trying to build awareness. And I get it. That's a benefit of actually showing up for a particular event. But really, you're also looking at the number of touches that you're making in front of a particular prospect. That face time is invaluable. And when you're looking at average customer value, I always think of average customer lifetime value from an event. And sometimes that customer may not necessarily be ready to purchase from you now, but it may be 6-12 months on the road, and simply by being at that event, that touch was able to kind of build a better impression and give a better impression for the business. So it's important to take in consideration really the lifetime customer value, not just the immediate customer value of being there. And by all means, you should be measuring this. Simply saying, well, it's for brand building, you can't measure that in the true sense of how many leads, how many people did you touch, how many people got exposure to, but really, what will be your return on investment in the end? So it's important to really take that into consideration there.
Yeah, I would say best practice, the folks that really hit it out of the park on this, is they actually chart expenses and leads or deals on a show-by-show basis.
Correct.
And, you know, annually when they're developing their budget for the coming year, they'll look down at the show performance and decide whether it warrants, going there again the following year. So in some cases, they're looking to like at hard or ROI, and in other cases, like particularly in B2B complex sale type stuff, a metric many folks look at is cost per lead acquired. Here's how much we spent. Here's how many solid leads we got. Expense divided by leads is cost per lead acquired. So that might be a valuable metric to look at. Obviously you want to zero in on the events that have the lower cost per lead acquired.
Absolutely.
Okay. This is something I believe that the really good event marketers own. This is their philosophy. They believe the success or failure of their event is determined well before the event even starts. So I would say, the typical scenario, and hopefully nobody falls into this category, but we've probably all been here, is, we buy a booth or we schedule an event or do something, and then we kind of show up and we hope people come. There isn't a lot of pre-thought into getting traffic to the booth. We figure the show's good, there'll be people there. We hope they stop by our booth or our table or whatever it is. And, we get partway into the show and, we're kind of like hoping and praying it starts picking up a little bit. And we get some names, maybe a few of them, but there's not really any organized process for data gathering or follow-up. I mean, follow-up might be just, handing some names off to some sales guys or something like that. And I've heard this said by many people after the event. They wonder, why are we really here? Did we get good ROI off it? Is it worth doing? If your goal was lead gen, you probably did gather up a few names and pass them on to the reps or dealers. And then what? What ends up happening? How many of them convert? If you're like in the supply business and you send them off to a dealer or distributor, did they end up buying your product, or did they buy somebody else's product? Okay. So this is, now that we've kind of done some pre-event planning, before we actually start launching Marcom Tactics, we need to really do some marketing 101 stuff here. The first question is, why should people really come to my booth? What am I going to be showing, doing, demonstrating that actually gives them a compelling reason to book an appointment? You really want to book appointments or make a point of stopping by. So really think hard about something that has a strong benefit for them. And for those of you that hawk products and services, really think about the value to them, not just the benefits and features on your new product. So some examples of things could be educational sessions that show them how they'll benefit. Introduce programs or products or concepts that are going to help them gain sales or accomplish their goals or objectives or compete on a higher level. Another thought is presentations by subject matter experts. If you've got somebody in your company or somebody you're affiliated with that really has expertise in an area, someone that would be helpful to your, the people you're trying to do business with, invite them in. In fact, we're doing that today. Noah has considerable expertise in outbound marketing, marketing automation, lead nurturing. So I invited him to jump in today because I thought it would be useful to all of you. Another thing would be exclusive one-on-one events or appointments. I've seen like VIP presentations, like after 5 o'clock, after the show hall closes, where maybe there's wine and cheese served and there's a special presentation just for the folks that are maybe like the higher value customers or prospects. Show specials can fall into this category. It's like, okay, maybe I've researched this product before and now you're going to give me incentive to kind of push me over the edge, during the show. Noah, why don't you comment on this last one? Because I think this is a huge deal.
Yeah, I generally find that one of the biggest problems that people have at events is their staff really isn't prepared for what they need to be doing there. In fact, a lot of times staff think a trade show or an event that they're flying to, they're going out to, is an opportunity to have a lot of fun. When yes, that may be something that is secondary, but really the primary goal of being there is to develop business. So I always call it the huddle, making sure everyone's on the same page, making sure everyone's working towards the same goals. The huddle includes before the event, what products or services are you going to be selling at this event? So if you have a big lineup, what are you really focusing on? What are you trying to promote to make sure everyone's on the same page? What are those offers? What are those specials going to be that Kevin was talking about? But more importantly, literally the huddle before that day and during the day of the event that morning, making sure the greeters understand their responsibilities, having metrics, in other words, the number of people that they should be talking to that day, number of business cards they should be collecting, the number of badges they should be scanning. In addition to goals for the closers, the people who are really going to be having a higher level or deeper conversation with these individuals. So ensuring that your team is prepared is probably the biggest thing you can do to make sure you're successful, but also probably the biggest mistake that most companies make is simply not being prepared for that day. Like I said, be prepared, make sure you know who your greeters and closers are, and that will ensure you a higher level of success.
Yeah, and if you're booking one-on-one appointments and that sort of thing, certainly you need to make sure everybody's aligned on who's coming when, so people are there and ready and double book.
Absolutely. Make sure you have that list printed out of everyone and all their times that they're going to be there, and that should be just something you guys bring with you.
So all of this really should get figured out before you develop a Marcom plan. So if you start thinking about timelines here now. Good pre-show marketing starts hitting in office, maybe about 2 weeks before the show or 3 weeks. So, think about, if you start backing things up on direct mail, how many weeks before do you need to be conceiving concepts, the big whys, probably at least 8 weeks, if not 12 weeks before the show. So you really, do things well. And now, having said that, I know some of you are with larger organizations who have, massive booths. I know some of you, your pre-show process actually starts, a year before you go home from one show and you're booked, working on the following years. Okay, let's talk about messaging here a little bit. Noah, you want to kind of weigh in on this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this goes back to some of your pre-preparation. What are you going to be doing at the show? And one of the things that we didn't really touch on earlier, but actually one of the areas I kind of want to talk on is a little bit about theme/giveaways. What is something you could do to entice someone to stop by your booth? Let's say you're a pen maker. Maybe your special is giving away a whole bunch of free pens that are either novelties or something that those individuals will be able to use later. We've had a client as kind of an incentive to get people to the booth and also to kind of build crowds is they gave away free handwriting analysis from a professional, something that was really fun for them to do, give it away. They were to promote it before the event, so anyone who signed up prior to the event, they would get on the schedule for a free handwriting analysis. It was a massive hit for them. But you should always be thinking about something that you can be giving away to prospective customers, whether it's information, whether it's, let's say you're a software company, you're giving away free software, hoping to make an upsell at a later time. But really thinking about, what can I do to entice that person that is only going to be available at this event, not any place else. So it creates a sense of urgency around the fact that if they're not there, they don't take advantage of it, they may miss out on that opportunity. So really something to think about when looking at your show specials or giveaways, and also while thinking about your themes.
Yeah. So, certainly is, with respect to messaging, really think in terms of what problem does this solve, or what's the gain, or what's in it for the person you want to lure to your event. Then you might want to contemplate some theme related messaging if you've got something going on in the booth. I've seen some really clever stuff done through the years. One booth was set up like the USS Enterprise, and like all the people were dressed up like Star Trek. One year in one of our booths, we all showed up wearing lab coats. We dressed up like doctors. I saw another one where they basically decked it out like Polynesia, Hawaii, and they were all wearing like real colorful Hawaiian shirts. And those things, they may seem kind of cheesy, but you know, if there's a lot of booths, it just create some visual impact and some memorability. People will remember, you know, you when they go home. So theming
Kevin,
might be something to think about. Go ahead.
And I'll add to this, you know, when you guys are at trade shows yourselves, even if it's not one that you're presenting at, it's a great opportunity to get ideas. You know, you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel each and every time as you're trying to come up with something clever or giveaway, but really observe what these other exhibitors are doing at these events and be able to take away some of the better ideas and use them for yourselves.
Mm-hmm. And if you decide to run some actual presentations, educational sessions, you know, then talk about topics and who's presenting and when. So that makes it into all your messages and you know, whether they be, you know, digital, print, or, you know, phone calling. Okay. I guess this kind of aligns with the, you know, some goal setting. How many of each type of opportunity, you know, do we want? What we ideally would like, so we're not just hoping and praying at the show, is to have a bunch of pre-scheduled appointments with people. You know, those can be one-on-ones or they can be group sessions. The one-on-one appointments with prospects or customers could be more intimate conversations. I'm saying on the side, could be people you've talked to previously. Maybe they came, you know, to another event you ran, or maybe they've hand raised on the web or something like that, and you've got some dialogue going, and now it's time to really sit down and talk one-on-one and talk turkey. And then trade shows are like totally awesome because they offer you the opportunity to have really quality conversations with current clients and customers, especially if you're like, you know, a national brand and your customers, you know, come from all over the place. I know you got a take on this one.
Yeah, I get pushback from some of our clients over the years and really where they're coming to us and saying, well, you know, isn't the purpose of a trade show just simply to show up and meet new people? And I say, well, you know, that's really a bonus. And what Kevin has here, walk-ups are a bonus. Think about it. The purpose of these events are to have face time with potential customers and existing customers. And it gives you that one-on-one exposure. If you really want to calculate the cost of trying to meet with 20 clients around the country, it would cost a fortune in air travel, whereas an event, all these people are going to be in one place, one time, that your focus should be on getting these one-on-one conversations with these people at the event, scheduling 15, 30-minute one-on-one meetings to walk through the products, walk through the services before that individual even shows up. You will get a significantly higher return on investment for two things. One, you don't need to go ahead and schedule a separate follow-up appointment after the event for the walk-ups, because you would have already done the initial intro call. So you're immediately, instead of that second appointment being intro, you're now into the discovery phase of your sales process, where they know who you are, they know what you're about. Now they're more interested in kind of getting to the details of what the offering will be. So scheduling those appointments can, one, get a heck of a lot more value out of the trade show. But two, let's say the trade show, the promoters don't do a very good job of promoting the exhibitors or the booths. And this can sometimes happen at events where you show up at a trade show or booth. Let's say it's because there's a seminar going on and they simply have a trade show or exhibitors as part of the offering, but they're not really promoting them. Well, if you had done your pre-outreach and scheduled appointments with all these other individuals and the prospects you want to talk to, you're still getting value out of this, despite the fact that the sponsors or the people actually putting on the event may not have done a very good job promoting the exhibitors themselves. So this is a surefire way to ensure that no matter what, you will have a successful event by at least meeting and talking to your ideal customers and making sure they're at the event and making sure you have the opportunity for one-on-one conversations. And like I said, I'm a firm believer, appointments, most important thing, walk-ups are of course a bonus.
Yeah, and I think there's an interesting point that can be taken from that. You know, a few slides back we talked about, you know, kind of the less than ideal trade show or event marketing. You know, the people show up and they hope that they have a good turnout at the booth, and you know, with the better effort, those folks that show up are just, icing on the cake rather than the thing that makes it or breaks it.
100% agree, and it's what I share with our customers and clients all the time.
Okay, let's talk about some pre-show marcom tactics. Now you've kind of figured out what you're going to do, what you're going to say. What are some ways to get the message out, Noah?
Yeah, so we use a variety of channels. Our goal as a pre-show marketing tactics is really twofold. One, we want to get an appointment with our ideal customers. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to identify everyone who's going to the event who we want to be talking to. So generally, they're going to provide you with some sort of list prior to the event. I would say, 7 out of 10 times they'll provide you that list. Sometimes you're going to have to go ahead and make educated guesses about who's going to be there and try to reach out to them anyway. So the first thing you do is, well, what's going to be the campaign to go ahead and get an appointment? So one, you're going to want to provide air cover for the event. So that means setting up a landing page devoted to that particular event. Do not set up a landing page where you just simply send them to the organizer's page, because you'll lose that prospect. Have your own page on your website designated to that event where you're going to be showing up, along with what you're going to be talking about, what that special offer may be, how they can sign up to meet with you in advance, or how they can sign up for, let's say, your 5 o'clock special where you're presenting something interesting at a local restaurant. Next thing you want to do is promote it on your website. Generally, we encourage our clients to have some sort of pop-up. So even as visitors are coming to your website, there'll be a pop-up promoting that event that you're going to be there. And of course, sharing the event on your company page on social media. That's just kind of providing the air cover for your outreach efforts, which are going to come next. Outreach, the idea here is you want to go ahead and schedule those appointments with individuals. And we find that it's a multi-channel approach. So the first thing we do is we set up a sequence of emails that we're going to be emailing out to people. Generally, I generally only keep it to a 3-email sequence. You don't want to get too much busier than that. Essentially, we're driving people to a call to action saying, hey, we're going to be at the event. We see you're going to be there too. We'd love an opportunity to set up a time to talk to you about XYZ. Would you have some availability? We generally drop them a few lines, and we keep that in the sequence. The second thing that we'll also do is direct mail. I can't stress how important direct mail is. Email open rates, depending upon your audience, if you have an excellent open rate, somewhere between 40 to 60%, but on average, we see our clients 20 to 30%. Well, guess what? Direct mail, people will see it when it comes in. The direct mail should be directing that person to the landing page, talking about the opportunity they want to meet them at the event, also having contact information for the rep that they want to schedule a meeting with. In addition to that, you should also be using social. I find one of the best use cases for social media is the ability to go ahead and use LinkedIn connection requests and LinkedIn messages as also an opportunity to go ahead and schedule times to meet with prospective customers. So you go ahead, you send a connection request to that person you want to meet with. Don't do it on the same day. Wait a day or two later. While the emails are being headed out, you can reference in the LinkedIn message, hey, listen, I'd love to set up a time to meet with you at this particular event. Would you have availability? Give a few times in the LinkedIn message. And you'll find out about half the people who will be responding to you will be coming directly from those LinkedIn messages that your sales reps are sending out. Last but not least, picking up the phone. It's a tried and true method, picking up the phone, calling an individual, seeing if they have the opportunity to schedule on-site appointments is, again, another way of successfully reaching out. So you've now provided air cover by setting up those landing pages, promoting on social media, as well as the website. Plus, you have some direct outreach channels where you're engaging people who will be at the event that you want to meet with. And when we do this for our clients and when they do it for themselves, they always come back. It's without a miss. Every time we had the best event ever. We had more people at our booth than anyone else at that show, and the people around us were wondering what we were doing. So this stuff works. You can take a bad event where everyone else thinks is a failure and turn it into an excellent event for yourself if you do this prep work. The other thing is, it's one thing to do the prep work and schedule the meetings, but you also want to remind these people to actually meet with you. So you got to do a quick follow-up. Let's say I scheduled to meet with someone at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday. Well, I'm going to want to send them a letter in advance. So you don't just want to do these emails and social, a day before the event. You want to really start scheduling this out, minimum of 3 to 4 weeks prior to the event, schedule times to meet with people before they have their schedule set. And before that event, you confirm the person will be meeting with you on a Tuesday at 11 o'clock. You put together a nice letter that you'll send to them with who they'll be meeting with, the time they'll be meeting you, as well as on a map where your booth is or where your exhibit is. Make sure you have that there. You want it to be easy for people to find you. When we do this, when we send out those letters prior to the event, and I would say 9 out of 10 times that person is bringing the letter with them to that booth. This is a private invitation. It's personalized. Saying, hey, I got 11 o'clock, showing the letter, and then moving on to actually meeting with the person at the event. So you want to put together who they'll be meeting with, location with a map, as well as time of the meeting itself. And then also, we generally schedule an email to be sent out that morning prior to the event itself. So we want it in their inbox. So we'll schedule that email to be sent out. Let's say the event's starting at 9 a.m. We'll schedule the email to be sent out around 8:30 that morning. So that person knows, hey, listen, just a friendly reminder, we'll be at the event. I have heard some people using text messaging to remind people to show up. Personally, I haven't done it. I know other companies have. We haven't resorted to that because we haven't found a really use case where we needed to, but I know some people are experimenting with text messaging. I want to give you fair warning. If you decide to text message someone to remind them to meet you at the event, just make sure you have permission before you do that. By doing these tactics, guys, you will be successful. And every one of our clients who've done this, like I said, whether they've had a huge turnaround or not, turns out to be very successful for them at that event.
Hey, I got a question on emails.
Sure.
Do you have any take on whether text or HTML emails are going to work better for this?
Great question. Text emails work better. They look personal. So, you send a few lines, few sentences, don't make them HTML. HTML sometimes can get put into not their spam, but their promotion folders. So they may not see it. Also, it's better to have the email being sent directly from the rep who would be meeting with them. So if you have multiple reps going to the event, marketing will want to go ahead. And marketing can set this all up for your individual sales reps. Sales rep doesn't need to do it themselves. But have the email being sent on behalf of the sales rep to that individual as a text email. It will perform far better than a pretty HTML email with design in it. One, you'll be sure to get it through. Two, a lot of inboxes out there now and servers will actually block the images in the HTML email, so it would come through funny. So great question, Kevin. Yes, I encourage text emails.
Okay. Something else just to kind of contemplate, those of you that are kind of vets of trade show marketing, there are some associations, organizers that aren't going to sell their email list. So the emails you are going to be able to send are pretty much limited to people you've already had some contact with. So the viable channels at that point really are like direct mail and some social media stuff. In the B2B environment, LinkedIn is, the space. So that might be something to talk about with your marketing team, sales team, development team. If you're in the B2B space, really, how do you beef up the number of LinkedIn contacts you have over the next 12 months?
Another thing that you can also do, which I didn't mention earlier, for anyone who has yet to use LinkedIn, sponsored content or audience match, even if you can't email these people, you can always upload all their information to LinkedIn and actually do some sponsored content to try and encourage a meeting, letting people know. What's really cool about it is your ads will only show for the people you want to appear for. So if it's a large enough trade show or a large enough group where people to be going to this particular event, you can actually do some ads on LinkedIn under sponsored content audience match to be able to also try and reach out to this target audience. What's interesting, Kevin, is I generally see companies saying, hey, listen, these are do not email or do not call us, but generally people say you can send as much direct mail as you want. But generally they don't say don't use social. So, when all else fails, you still got LinkedIn.
Right. I guess there was one other issue we wanted to address, as far as things that are done during the event. He already talked about sending some reminder emails and letters and stuff and social media posts, but data gathering is another, huge component. Now, just about everybody that's used to doing events and shows has got some kind of a scanning device or sign up form or using iPads or something like that. I will tell you, iPads get a little bit clunky. We've had clients try to use those and we've used them, and it takes a long time for people to fill out all their info on an iPad. So I might steer clear of that one. But, if you can, get the software, you can use your smartphone or smart device, scan a badge, scan a business card, whatever. but I find it's the notes from the conversations that are like really critical. So I've seen a couple really good takes on this. One that we've used is we keep like a notebook or a legal pad underneath the counter. And typically, if you using one of those scanning devices, it'll give you like a record number with the person you've scanned. We'll write the record number down on the legal pad, and then just write down everything we kind of learned from the conversation, so we can go back and pound it into our CRM. The other way I've seen it done that's pretty cool is people use like the voice text function on their smartphone. They'll go basically transcribe the same information they could have written down, and shoot that off to an admin who can get it typed into the CRM database. But I'm a really believer in detailed note taking. People are going to tell you what their problems and situation are, and that stuff's really useful because it'll give you a relevant basis for conversation moving forward, kind of help you analyze what their funnel position is. Okay, we're sitting on 239 right now, so we need to keep moving. Sarah, do we have a question or two that's come in that you want to toss out there?
Actually, yes, we do. Noah, this one would probably be better for you. How do you build your list of contacts prior to a show or event?
That is a great question. So there's really two ways of doing it. Obviously, sometimes you get a list from the organizer, but what you're going to want to do is go ahead and start identifying which of those people you really want to be meeting with. And I generally break them down into top tier candidate or top tier prospects, and then put everyone else in a different bucket. But sometimes an organizer may not necessarily give you the names of the people that are going to be there. They're going to give you just like, let's say, the company name. So you're going to have to go ahead and start building out your contact list. To this day, there's still no better resource out there than LinkedIn to find all the contacts who work at those particular companies. So generally, I will use LinkedIn to go ahead and find those contacts. Now, LinkedIn has shut down a lot of the tools out there that you're able to scrape information from LinkedIn. So to find email addresses, from time to time, maybe you use a tool like Email Hunter to see if you can use that to find email addresses. But generally, what I do is I split my list into two. I identify everyone who I want to have an appointment with. I assign those people to individual reps who would be in charge of those territories. I put together a unique campaign for each and every one of them. If I need to find the individual contacts themselves, I use LinkedIn. And then sometimes I go off a previous list. Let's say you don't get a list prior to the event, but you have a list from a previous year. You can also use that as a mechanism to go ahead and actually build out your list of people you want to reach out to. And your message would be, hey, notice that you're at this event last year. Are you planning on being at this upcoming event? And by the way, guys, this is a really great method. If you know the event organizers, say, hey, don't email the list that we give you, but if you email the list, the previous year's list, before they give you the New Year's list, as far as I know of, that's still kosher. So, just get that email ready and advance and early.
Yeah, what's the old ask for forgiveness rather than permission sometimes?
Yeah, exactly. It's a strategy one of our clients uses. Like, when we know this organizer always says you can't email or call anyone on the list, but we have the previous year's list. We generally get the list for everyone who's going to be at the event about a week before the event. So we started the campaign about 3 weeks before, knowing we still hadn't received that list yet.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some after the event stuff here. So I'm going to try not to chuckle here, but I've had so many conversations through the years with people who work events, asking, what does your post-show process look like? And it's like, well, we come back and we take all these leads and we pass them on to our reps or our dealers or distributors, depending on, how your company's structured. And, well, so what happens then? Well, they probably make, one or two calls. They're not able to catch a lot of the people, or they call the people and they say, we're not ready to buy. And, if they can't get through within a couple, they give up. And so I got a book for y'all to read. A guy named Brian Carroll wrote a book called Lead Generation for the Complex Sale. It's a really interesting book. He kind of talks about kind of this dance that sales and marketing have in companies where leads get passed to sales follow up. They label them as duds. then they stop following up, and then marketing gets ticked off because the reps aren't following up on the leads. And I mean, I've relayed that scenario to many companies through the years, and they just say, yeah, that's exactly what goes on here. So here's the reality with a complex sale. And when we say complex sale, costs a lot of money. So people have to think about it and research it, and probably multiple decision makers involved, or big decision to switch from somebody they're using. These kind of sales can take months to become sales ready. So like if the rep gives up after 1 or 2 calls, how does that, kind of reconcile with, the current process? So Noah, kind of what's your take on all this?
Yeah, I completely agree. Most reps don't really do much follow-up. It's actually the most common problem, and a lot of companies find out there's a lot of waste because they don't go through that process. There really should be a point person who owns, in some sense, all the contacts, all the follow-ups, and make sure that the leads are passed to the right individual, so that everyone is successful. But I tend to find what reps do is they cherry pick the best opportunities and leave the rest. And so you can't necessarily change the mechanics or the thinking or how sales reps work, so kind of go with it. But when I generally go with it, what I do is I have marketing be ready for the follow-up for everyone who is not a sales qualified lead, but really what I consider a marketing qualified lead, and have marketing start preparing for after event activities. And a lot of times, and I'll get into this in a minute here, which I know you're going to ask me about, but what are some of those? So marketing should be prepared to either follow up with additional content related to the event, what you guys there were to talk about, what you guys were to do, and perhaps even have a webinar ready to go a few weeks thereafter. So when you're actually at the event, even if people aren't necessarily ready to make a purchase, you're just getting familiar with who you are, you have some sort of event that you can start driving these people to. So all this needs to be pre-planned in advance. So after event Marcom tactics really should be called pre-event post Marcom tactics, where you do all the planning in the beginning. So after the event, you immediately know what you're going to be doing, when you're going to be doing it, and who's going to be responsible for what. And so, like I said, there is, as long as you guys are prepared, you'll be good to go. And I'll walk you through an example here in a second.
So no, I just popped this question up here. How can marketing automation help this whole picture? I know marketing automation is kind of a nebulous buzzword out there right now, but like how can it really, make a difference in post-show marketing?
Marketing automation, one of the brilliant things about it, it's not just email marketing and one-on-one action, but what it enables you to start doing is enables you to start tagging individuals, where you met them, how you met them, how many web pages they visited on your website, have they interacted with your content, are they involved in the sales process, are they not involved in the sales process, and they enable you to start tagging and organizing the prospects and putting them in different workflows. So in this particular case with marketing automation, you can then start assigning people and start saying, hey, listen, this person is a sales qualified lead. They're not going to be in the same email string that, let's say, someone who is not yet a sales qualified lead would be in. So with marketing automation, you can set up a workflow behind it. So immediately once that event is over, you can prep for your webinar you're going to do about 2 to 3 weeks after the event. You can load all your prospects in there. And the cool part about marketing automation is, let's say someone goes ahead, you have a 4-email sequence notifying them about this upcoming webinar. You send them the emails. On email 2, they visit the webinar and sign up with you. Well, marketing automation, the advantage is it takes them out of that workflow because they signed up, and instead puts them in the workflow to remind them about the upcoming events. And then it can also slice and dice based upon the type of information you want to send. Some people may be curious about information A versus information B. And with marketing automation, you're able to start really defining the message that these individuals will be receiving, and start tailoring that message so it gets a maximum kind of exposure / resonates the most with that target audience that you're reaching out to.
Yeah, I think in a nutshell, it can help ensure that your company maintains a dialogue with a prospect until they become sales ready. I heard somebody say this one time, half the battle in sales is just, continuing to circle the carcass till the other buzzards get out of the way. It's like, a lot of times people are going to make their decision or switch after somebody else has like ticked them off, or they've had a bad experience. And, one of the values of doing ongoing lead nurturing, facilitated by marketing automation, is it can help you retain top of mind so that when they're ready to kill your competitor or the alternative, they say, oh yeah, like I'll call you. So anyway,
that's correct. A lot of it just be at the right place, right time, Kevin.
Yeah. So I'm going to move on, and Noah, why don't you kind of talk about this kind of case study post show?
Yeah. So we had this particular client, and this was actually an event where most of the other participants, the exhibitors, really thought it was a dud. Where our client said this was the best event they've ever been to. They've been going to this event for years, but this was literally the best one. This was a client who had a really cool hook. The hook was, in essence, they had a handwriting sample professional there. I can't take credit for it. It was their idea. Could work for them. I liked it. Turned out to be a real big success. So what we did is we set up a landing page. We promoted it. We had it on their website, so anyone visiting their webpage would know about it, just like we described to you guys earlier. As part of this is the outreach itself. And so we put together an entire outreach. We had direct mail in there, which was a cornerstone. We had emails going out. They were sending LinkedIn messages, and also followed with phone calls. And really, we identified the top tier customers they wanted to be meeting with at the event to make sure that it was going to be as impactful as possible. A lot of one-on-one appointments were scheduled for this particular event. So when they actually got there, they already had an entire list of people they're going to meet with. So even if no one else showed up to their booth, they already ensured that it was going to be a successful event for all one-on-one meetings. All the letters went out in advance. The emails went out that morning to remind everyone. Plus, I had a lot of people who were showing up and they were able to scan badges. Once after the event occurred, we already had planned out a webinar as a post-event outreach activity, so there was no additional planning. We already knew what people were going to be doing. So even at the event, the people that were working there were telling everyone, hey, listen, we do have some supplemental complimentary material that's going to be after the event. We're going to be hosting a webinar. It's going to be talking about X, Y, and Z. I would love for you guys to participate. All the leads were broken down into sales qualified leads and marketing qualified leads. Sales qualified leads were then handed over to their salespeople who are going to work them themselves. And so what the salespeople were doing were setting up sequences to schedule additional meetings, appointments, follow-up material that was asked for them. And also they were going to individually promote the upcoming webinar versus the marketing qualified leads that we set up a sequence in the workflow to start promoting the upcoming webinar as a post-event outreach. And then that's when we went ahead and we actually did the webinar invite for the upcoming webinar, and then of course hosted the webinar. And then we did post-webinar outreach, both to the people who signed up as an attendee, as well as the people who couldn't make it but had signed up. We were able to send them a video. And then in addition to that, we also were able to nurture people who did not sign up for the webinar but had shown some sort of interest in what we were doing. And then put them into a nurture sequence. But that nurture sequence includes everything from ongoing direct mail, ongoing emails to these individuals, again, thanking them for meeting them at the event, letting them know that we're here to answer any questions they have. And then we also had a special offer for an additional hook that if they got in touch with us within a short period of time, they were able to do something special for them. And so it ended up being hugely successful, but all because of the pre-event planning that was going into this. And that when they actually came back from the trade show itself, they already knew exactly what they were doing with all the contacts and leads. Everyone was prepped in advance. This is what the plan is. This is the game plan moving forward, and ended up being a huge success for this client. These events, these face-to-face opportunities are never going to disappear. I know the internet has taken over a lot of marketing activities, but I consider trade shows and events still some of the best places to build relationships with potential customers.
Sure. It can be challenging to get in front of people in this day and age, and trade shows kind of provide a unique opportunity to get, some face time with a lot of people all at once.
That's absolutely correct.
It's not the intent of this seminar to get real exhaustive on nurturing, but I would just say, when you start thinking about what should happen after the show, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, just sit down and make a list and think of what are the steps the potential purchaser, what does their process look like? What are the things they're going to probably want to do or need to do to make a decision to purchase? We do a lot of work in the motorsports realm. They're going to want to get a quote. They're going to want to research the product. They're going to want to show up to a show or event and look at it, kind of without sales pressure. They're going to want to do a demo ride or test ride somewhere. They're going to have to figure out if they can get financing. A big issue, like when daddy decides he wants to buy a new like ATV or whatever, he's got to like go make the case to mama for spending that giant chunk of change. So like getting mama's buy-in is like part of that process. So map out what that process looks like, and then think about, okay, what steps have they already gone through, and what other steps do we need to expose them to, so we can, you know, keep them moving through the funnel to the point where they're ready to talk to a rep, a dealer, an admissions rep, you know, whatever that person looks like in your business. Got another case study here. I've got a friend who's a really good sales rep. He sells these specialized mice. They're 3D mice. They get used in CAD applications, you know, like engineering, architecture, that sort of thing. So he works for trade shows, and basically his goal at the trade show is to get names and book appointments. Now his deal is not a super a complex sale. It's not a super high ticket item. It's a few $100. He's typically selling into companies where they have decent sized staffs, and so he's trying to sell a bunch of them, you know, all at the same time. This might be an example that's portable for any of the building suppliers. So he basically tries to get names and book appointments at the show, and he'll go out and do a site visit within 3 to 4 weeks. It says 2 to 4 on the slide. And his goal there is just to do a demo with a decision maker. So, you know, I'll roll into your town, I'll buy you lunch. Lunch and learns are a good way to get people, you know, a little bit of free time to talk with you. He wants to get all the influencers there, and he basically goes in and shows them how to use his mouse. And after the demo, he leaves them with one and says, why don't you just goof around with it for a few weeks, and I'll call you back in a month or so and see what you think. And he goes back in a month, and gets feedback, and most of the time they love them, and they buy, you know, a few dozen of them or a few hundred of them, depending on how big a company, and he gets the deal. So that's kind of a less complex. I've seen this also done with software, where they'll give away like a free or a trial version of the software at the show or event, and try to get people just kind of navigating around and using it, seeing if they like it. And then, you know, they might get back with them in 30 days and try to upgrade them into the, you know, paying version of the software. So, you know, just really think about what the next steps will look like. I guess that's the, you know, that's the rule here. Okay, well, we're at the end of the canned content here. Sarah, do we have any more questions?
We did. We actually had a handful come in. So Noah and Kevin, this might be good to get both your input on this question. How soon should we start following up with leads after the show ends?
Noah, what's your take on that one?
So generally I give a couple of days. Keep in mind, they're traveling, they're getting back. So generally about 3 business days after the event. Let's say the event ended on a Friday. I'm not going to go ahead and start bugging them on Monday and Tuesday. I'd wait until about Wednesday to start with the first email outreach. I generally will then also go ahead and schedule the webinar about 2.5 to 3 weeks after the event to give people plenty of time to get situated again. They're going to have to catch up on some work while they were away. So I do give it a few days. I generally think a good rule of thumb is waiting about 3 business days before doing all your follow-up activities, just simply because they're going to be bombarded from all the other vendors during that period of time. And I don't want to seem like the most needy person who's reaching out to them again.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't hit them like while they're at the show. Like they're at the show all day long. Like they're going to probably go out to dinner with clients. They're going to come back. They're going to have to catch up on email. They're tired. Like, don't waste your time sending stuff at the show. And I agree with Noah. I usually wait, you know, 3, 4, 5 days after the show, because I know if I'm showing up in their inbox when they get back, like I'm probably getting discounted, because yeah, the high priority stuff is the stuff they're looking at when they come back, you know, from the show. Any others, Sarah?
Yes. How should we determine a budget for the show?
Whoa, so that's like really subjective, right? I don't know that I have a solid answer to that one. I think it's really going to boil down to how much can you afford to invest and what's the ROI case. That's going to vary for every company. You know, there's some companies that have to budget hundreds of thousands of dollars, and there are others where, you know, spending 15 or 20 is going to be painful, and you know, they're really going to have to make it work, you know, on that 15 or 20. What do you think, Noah?
So it all depends upon your scenario. I've actually seen some clients, and you can't do this at every event, but the event organizers will sell them the list no matter what, even if they didn't exhibit. And what they'll do is they'll do pre-outreach. So they'll actually attend as an attendee instead of an exhibitor. And they'll still do the whole pre-event outreach where they'll schedule meetings with people and be able to find a place at the exhibit, the trade show, or the hotel where they can still have one-on-one meetings. So if you're really on a tight budget and you can't afford to necessarily exhibit, it is another way of doing it where you're still getting one-on-one meetings at the event. Think of it like no different than you know, flying out to meet with everyone, but doing it there. And I do agree with you, Kevin. It really comes down to what your ROI is going to be. What are you anticipating that you're going to be able to pull from one of these events in terms of customers, in terms of who those customers are? And that will also determine the number of people that you're going to have there and the communication. Like if you go to like the CES event, I mean, that's a massive event. You know, you may have to spend, I mean, I think with starting there's like $25,000 for an exhibit at a minimum for a small booth. So you also got to be really considerate about which events you want to go to. And it's not necessarily about the quantity of attendees that are going to be there. It's about the quality of the attendees that are most likely a good fit for your business. So keep that in consideration when you look. So you may actually have a much better event going to an event that only has 200 to 300 people versus an event that has 5,000, because all 200 to 300 are your ideal customers versus the 5,000, of which maybe 100 may be an ideal customer, and it'd be hard to reach them at that big event.
Okay, we're bucking right up against 3 o'clock. Want to thank everybody for coming today. My contact info's on here. If you want to get a hold of Noah, just send me a message and we'll forward it to him. Noah, thanks for jumping in today and helping everybody. Thanks for coming. Hope it was useful, and hope your event marketing efforts are successful. Take care. Bye now.